with that being said, the star of the show will be actually Stelios, because
not sure about that.
Okay, so Stel,
yes,
would you like to talk about your experience the way Blake did, or would you prefer to have me
we'll do a bit,
guide you around?
I think we'll do a bit of both.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, why don't we just start it off with? I know a little bit about your background. It came with the book. Yeah. And I'm interested in maybe the first couple steps before you ended up at Merrill's desk trading Libor, what you were doing. I know you had a master's, so tell us about what you were trying to accomplish getting a master's degree in the first place.
So I describe all this in the book as well. So it's a good thing for people to understand where I come from, because then you get taken into a trip, which is quite scary at times. But basically, to summarize, I studied computer science, so I became a programmer. I did hardcore programming for about 3 years here in Greece. Then I worked for Accenture on a project for a bank where they redesigned their system. This was all programming and project management, stuff like that. But then I got bored. I got really bored. So I decided, following advice from my family, to do an MBA, which I think is a great way to change career or to open doors. I think MBAs have nothing to do about what you learn. It's about your networking. And I did that. So I studied in the UK. I did in London at Imperial College. I did my MBA at Manchester Business School. And on the first term of the MBA, we had just started. This was in 2000. So this was the good days. And we had consultancies, banks, everybody coming to the campus and giving presentations. And this guy, one of the first presentations, there was this relatively boring guy talking about banking. And then I realized he's a trader, and he starts talking about what he does on a day-to-day basis. And I was just hooked. So this was a guy from Barclays. And I applied for an internship, summer internship at Barclays and to a few other banks. Barclays, they did this amazing 3-day weekend where they took you to their headquarters in Canary Wharf. They actually selected people. You did these tests and mathematics tests and English and interviews, and then they pick 200 people out of the, I don't know how many thousands applied, and they take them for a 3-day weekend, and they do these games and tests and stuff. It was really, really amazing. I mean, really well organized, and you play these games and you don't realize it, but you're being watched and you're being assessed. Right. And I was lucky enough, they picked in the end, I think 40 people to do an internship. And I was lucky enough to do well on that 3-day weekend, and they picked me. So
what was the internship like? What did they teach you? What were your duties as an intern at Barclays?
Yes, well, that's the thing. I went into the internship. It was 12-week internship. And I got in thinking, okay, I have to learn things. I have to do this and that. And really, at the end of the internship, near the end, when I asked one of the managers, I said, what are you looking for in a guy that you want to hire? He turns around to me and he goes, we're looking for people who are not assholes. And I'm like, what the hell? But seriously, no, the whole point of the internship is to see how you interact, how you assimilate new information. Because let's not forget, I was an IT man. I had traded as a average Joe, retail trader. I had done some trading here in Greece, but really nothing compared to being a professional trader or trading full time. So I wasn't expected to know about trading and finance and everything, but they gave me this project, which was about the gilt basis. So this is a relatively complex product that's traded. But really the whole point was to see how I adapt to the environment, how I adapt to what's required of me, and how I interact with everybody, and what kind of person I am. So I was lucky enough. I worked with this guy. We became friends afterwards, called Trevor, and I worked with him on this project, and it was really good. And in the end, I had to write up a report for the business school and one for the bank, but the bank didn't care about the report. I'm sure they just threw it away. It was about finding out who I am and how I work and how my brain works. So that was the internship.
Okay.
And then I went back to business school, and I had another 8 months or so to go. But after the internship, they made me the offer. So I was in this great situation where I had more business school, but I didn't care about what I do because I had the job ready. And as it turns out, usually in these situations, I had no pressure. So I did really well. I got a distinction, I did very well at the MBA as well. So it was enjoyable. And then early 2002, I landed in Canary Wharf, and I started learning to trade at Barclays. And I was lucky enough that in one of those tasks, that was one of those games that we played in that assessment weekend, the supervisor was the head of the sterling interest rates derivatives desk. Really smart guy. And he basically made me an offer to go to his desk when I finished my MBA, which was the sterling desk. And so when I started, I went there, and I spent the first year or so, year and a half, because I had all this experience in coding and Excel and Visual Basic. I knew everything. This guy said, "Oh, wow, okay, this guy's going to come and learn to be a trader, but first he's going to redesign all the pricing models and do this and that." So I spent like nearly, I think, a year and a half doing systems as well as learning to trade, which was difficult because I wanted to trade, but I had all these projects I have to deliver. But the good part was that I learned about every instrument. I learned about how swaps work, and discounted cash flows and NPVs and everything. So it was really, really good for me to understand the product, because you have traders who trade something and they don't actually understand the mechanics. They see a price, and it happens.
Right.
A lot of people know the product, but some people just don't care. They see a price, they see a chart, they trade that. So.
Right.
So that's what I spent doing the first year and a half. Then they gave me a little trading book to trade, and I did well. And that's when the whole story started. So
Okay.
I want to ask a question. What do people know about the Libor scandal? Let's say, what have you heard about it, Dale? Do you know what it was?
That banks were misquoting it or manipulating the spread to,
Yes.
and people ended up the rationale was that it was costing people money on their loans because of the price fixing or manipulation of the rate.
Yes. So this is what the media has said, and
Right.
Obviously we know media is guided, and they presented something which was true in one little part and untrue in a massive part. So
And one of our attendees said that it was all your fault.
Okay. Nice, thank you. So what happened is this. Where do I start? Okay, so in terms to put a timeline, some things happened when I was at Barclays in my first 2-3 years, and then I got a phone call in 2010 from a lawyer saying, "No, there's this investigation." This is years later. "There's this investigation about Libor, and you're one of 300 people we want to talk to." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, of course I'll help," and this and that. And what happened? And the stuff that I write and I say, it's all public domain. I'm not saying anything new. It's just that it got reported very little because obviously everybody high up wanted to bury this. So I put everything together, and I want people to understand what happened. And also through this book, I want people to step in my shoes and see how it went, see how the thing progressed, and try to ask yourself, what would I do in Stelios' shoes? What would I do here? What would I do there? Because it's a very difficult journey. So what happened is this. When I first started, and I'm not going to give everything away, but I'm going to give you a good idea. When I first started, I worked on the desk that traded Libor swaps, among others. And Libor, for people who don't know, is the rate at which banks can borrow money. And it's a rate that banks can borrow money from each other, and it's a specific panel of banks who submit their Libor rates for various maturities. So 1 week, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, up to 1 year. And the definition of Libor is where would you be able to borrow normal market size in 3 months or 6 months or whatever. That was the definition of Libor. By the way, nobody knew the definition. I asked somebody afterwards, people who's been trading Libor swaps for years, what do you know what the definition is? No, I don't know. Nobody cared about it. But anyway, so that's the definition. So if you're a bank, if you're Barclays, and you ask, where do I borrow 3-month funds in, say, dollars in normal market size, so in $1 billion, you will get, if you ask 10 banks, you will get 5 different numbers. It just goes without saying. If you ask JP Morgan, or if you ask Banca Intesa, or whatever bank, you will get different numbers. So on any given day, there's one person in each bank who submits this LIBOR rate, and he says, for 1 month or for 3 months or 6 months, Barclays can borrow X percent, 1.03%. This person will have got 1.01, 1.02, 1.05, 1.04, whatever. They pick one number. There was no guideline as to how to do it. So when I first started in the bank, one of the first things that my boss told me, he took me by the hand and he took me to the desk of the submitter, who was like 10 meters away, 3 rows away. And he said, no, this is Peter. He submits LIBORs for this bank. And on occasion, I'm going to ask you to tell him what our preference is, because you have a position. This guy as well, the submitter, they have huge positions. So you will naturally have, based on any given day, what positions you have. You want it to be a little bit higher, you want to be a little bit lower. My boss told me that because at the time he was in New York, I was in London, and LIBOR sets at 11 a.m. London time. So New York guys are asleep at the time. So he told me that, and it was all in the open. And this was something that I found out afterwards had been going on for years and decades. So basically, you have a day when the swaps desk or the submitter himself or whoever has a huge fixing position, huge position on 3-month LIBOR that day, and he wants the rate to be higher. Well, if he can choose between 1.02, 1.03, and 1.04, he's going to go with 1.04. It's commercial interest. And that is what was happening, what my bosses were telling me to tell the other guy. And sometimes it was done over email. In the beginning, it was done over email. Then it was done over voice. Actually, no, in the beginning, it was done over voice, then over email, etc. And that's what happened. And,
wasn't that just kind of like the spread for the bank to take as a profit center?
Yeah, exactly. It's commercial interest. And from what I know, there was no rule or law or regulation that prohibited that. Later on in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, there was a court that said, this is not allowed. You're not allowed to do that. And then obviously after that date, nobody did that. But before that, and for decades, from what I understood afterwards, it was done and it was very regular. So that happened for years and years, and it could nudge the final LIBOR number a little bit, because the calculation is there are 16 banks who submit LIBOR rates. Top 4 get taken out, bottom 4 get taken out, and the rest are averaged. So if you put a stupid number, you just get taken out. You don't go into the calculation. So that was a nice way for them to smooth out the outliers and put a rate that's kind of representative. So anyway, this happened for years and years, and theoretically, you could influence LIBOR like this. You could, by say an 1/8 of a basis point. If you're one bank and you do that, you could influence. And if you had a huge enough position, you could move it a little bit to your advantage and make a little bit of money. And in court, we actually proved how much that money was. And when I tell you, you're going to laugh. Anyway, that's what happened. Fast forward to 2008, when the crisis started and LIBOR rates, were at point, let's say X, 5%. 3-month dollar LIBOR is 5% or 4%. And then suddenly we see things happening with Bear Stearns and Lehman. And suddenly when you're lending out money, so when somebody's borrowing for you at LIBOR, you don't really start caring about the rate. You don't care if you're going to get 4% back. You care if you're going to get your money back at the end, right, because they might borrow and then go bust. So what happened? Central banks start slashing rates, and LIBORs theoretically are linked to interest rates, to the Fed funds rate, but they stopped being linked. They started going up, even though as they were slashing rates, because banks were scared that they're not going to get their money back. So LIBORs were going up. I was working at Merrill at the time. I had positions that would make money because I could see it coming. I had positions that would make money if LIBOR goes up. And so did hedge funds. Many of the smart guys, I mean, they had put huge positions on. And they made crap loads of money. 2008 was my best year. 2009 as well was really good. And they made lots of money. And then suddenly, it was in, I think it was early 2009, from one day to the next, LIBOR, 3-month dollar LIBOR moved. Usually it would move by like a basis point or half a basis point, a quarter of a basis point. It would never gap. unless there's something massive that happens. So one day from one day to the next, 3-month dollar LIBOR with nothing changed in the markets, no rate cuts, no rate hikes, nothing. It goes from like, I can't remember the numbers exactly, from like 6% to 5%, which is 100 basis points. It was ridiculous. I remember looking at the screens and going, what the hell just happened? Somebody mistyped it. It has to be a fat finger. And it wasn't. So LIBOR started moving by such amount. Then the next day moved another 50 basis points. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? And obviously people made a lot of money and people lost a lot of money. And the smart people, the hedge funds and all that, who had positions where LIBOR would be high, they started losing a lot of money. And I guess somebody went to the regulator and said, look, something's wrong here. You got to go check it out. And from what I understand, an investigation started and they found out what happened. And this is something that the guy from, I'm going to put the link here actually afterwards. There was an episode of BBC Panorama. So the BBC in the UK, there's this journalist, Andy Verity, who's such an amazing guy. And he wanted to tell the truth. And he's the only one who did. So he made a video about this. And he showed that there was orders from the Chancellor of the Exchequer, or basically very high up, Bank of England, who said to the banks, guys, you have to lower your LIBOR submissions because if you don't, it shows that you have problem raising cash. You might go under, there might be a run on the bank. There's going to be trouble. You have to lower your submission. Now, this obviously is illegal. You can't go 100 basis points lower. You have to have the rate that you said has to be, representative of where you can borrow money. And so I found out later, I didn't know at the time, I found out in court that the Bank of England had given orders to the CEOs, bring your LIBORs down. And that's what they did. And suddenly people started asking questions, obviously, and there's an investigation, and they find this, and they see how high up it goes, and it goes to the CEOs, and then it goes to the Bank of England, and it goes all the way up. So I'm guessing they panicked, the regulators and the people who are supposed to investigate this, because let's face it, you don't go after the big boys if you want to live anyway. And what they did then is they investigated more, and they go back all these years, and they find out these requests that I was passing on for my bosses, by the way, which were on email, so recorded, and I knew everything was recorded, and they go back to that. And they go, oh, this is illegal. Why are you doing this? This is why we're going to prosecute you. And that's how I found out that I was being investigated and then prosecuted for that. And my legal team, they just couldn't believe it. They're like, what the hell is happening? First of all, I was the guy I was receiving an email saying, can you please tell XYZ that we prefer it to be high? I forwarded that email, or I wrote a market commentary sometimes, and I wrote that at the end. And they go after me and not the boss, first of all, which is insane. The boss is still out there working and obviously untouched. So they go after me and people of my level, mostly juniors. And if you remember, this was my first trading job. I was an associate. You start as at the very bottom. And that's what happened. And then starts a 6.5 legal process, which
6.5
is something
years.
that can 6.5. Sorry, what did I say? Yeah, 6.5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's something, that can break you. Absolutely.
Yeah. Was your mistake the first time going to that lawyer to cooperate, not having a lawyer with you? Because you felt like you did nothing wrong?
Yeah, well, I went without a lawyer because I said, no, I want to help. Obviously, it was not a mistake. I didn't say anything or do anything that, that hurt me. But I think they were pretty well determined on who they were going to go after. But as it turned out, I had to go through a 6+ year process because, they say, we're investigating you. Then they go, we're going to prosecute you. By the way, the trial is in 2 years. And you have to go through all this knowing that this is pending above your head. I was facing 10 years in prison for this.
Stelios, can I say something?
Yeah.
So when I first met Stelios, Steve knew him, or you guys met previous, obviously, to us. starting ForexAnalytix, and I was just putting together the ideas, and I was still trading for or working for MB Trading.
Wise trade.
No, we were already done with them years before that, but I was I was working for them, and they were allowing me to build ForexAnalytix, as we made this transition. And I talked to Stelios, and he's like, "Yeah, I want to be part of it, but you got to know, you've heard about this on the news. Well, that's me." And I'm like, "Huh?" And I remember, but there were so many years for the first couple years, Stelios. I mean, he was really stressed out, and I mean, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's when you have this thing above your head, and the problem is that when it goes to court, and you have all these the barristers, and you get cross-examined by the barristers and all that. Obviously I speak English quite well, but it's not my mother language, so mother tongue. So it's like you get on the spot there, and I always said, even if I brought my grandmother there, who had nothing to do with it, she would still be bloody scared. So it was stressful. It was really stressful.
Well,
but I guess.
I want to say that I'm getting confirmations from a lot of different people that they're getting your book, and I'm excited to actually read it and get my. I already ordered a copy, but I can't wait to get my signed copy. So
still, going through that type of crisis for that long a period of time. I mean, people have health crises, or once you're in the system, it grinds so slowly. Tell us what happened to you personally, and how you were able to cope, and at times how you felt that you couldn't cope. And we met you while you were still going through this, and I had no idea because of the way you comport yourself with others. And so I know that it's not it's not just a legal thing. It's you talk about 6.5 years. It's like you were in a war. I mean, do you have any PTSD from that, and worry about the fact that a lot of people that have had trouble with regulators give up every license possible, like me. I didn't have trouble, but it's nice not to be licensed and regulated, and because you could say what you want to say. What held you up and kept you going through this whole thing?
Very good question. Well, the first reaction I had, and my wife and my family, was despair. The first 2 days we didn't sleep. When I got charged, I mean, when I was being investigated, I always thought, there's no way any sane person who saw me in this whole thing would say this person has done nothing. But when I got charged, I couldn't sleep for 2 days, and my wife neither, and she was pregnant to our second baby. And after 2 days, we just sat there and we said, look, we're not going to let this harm us, no matter what it is. So what do? We look at the monster in the face. What are we facing? 10 years in prison. Okay, which means that you deserve the half of it, and it's not going to be the maximum. So basically, we agreed that it's going to be 2 years if I get convicted for whatever reason. So then you start from there, and you go, okay, this is the worst case scenario. If that happens, then she said, I'm going to take the kids, and my brother lives in London, so we'll come to UK. I'll work from there. We'll figure it out. And suddenly, when you do that, things look a little bit easier. Obviously, you don't want to spend a single day in jail, right?
Yeah, right.
But when you do that, suddenly a lot of the weight comes off. And then the biggest help for me was the
Your
strength
family.
My family, yeah. My wife was solid as a rock. My parents, my brother, my friends. A lot of my friends, they just deserted me. They just stopped having contact with me, even though they kind of knew the story. Others didn't, and they stopped contact anyway. So
you found out who your true friends were.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's that's what I did, and it's something that I try to put across in the book. The book is not just about what's Libor, what was happening, what was right, what was wrong. It's about the whole journey. So I try to show that as well, because I think my experience could help others. I hope nobody nobody goes into my situation, because it was really difficult at times. But if you take things one step, one task at a time, one day at a time, you will get there. You will get there. And obviously, it's difficult if you know you've done nothing wrong. It's very difficult to keep fighting and to have the energy. And yes, I'm going to try more. And trust me, I had how many hours of meetings with my lawyers and this and that, and they were trying to explain to me all the legal implications and this, if you do that. And I don't understand many of them, but still I had to make decisions. We together had to make decisions on how to overcome. And I have to say, at this point, I always thought lawyers were overpaid. My lead barrister got paid ridiculous amounts of money, and I think he deserved every penny.
Wow.
Anyway.
All right.
So it's.
All right. So you knew that you were probably kryptonite in the banking industry to find new employment, and you talk about what you had to pay in legal fees, so you still needed to work and support your family through these times. What was that like, Stel, having to almost like reinvent yourself from a bank trader to just becoming an entrepreneur? Were you employed at the time, or did you have to forced into being a self-employed guy after that?
Well, first of all, I want to show this. We all dream about being on the headlines, right? I want to be famous. Well, this is the other guy. This is me. But anyway, to answer your question, unfortunately, even though I got cleared, it was a 12-week trial, and the verdict came within over an hour, which is ridiculous. Even though I was cleared completely, and I still have, and I have lots of friends in the industry and who worked at banks, and I know a lot of people. Everybody said to me, "Look, there's no way anybody's going to hire you. You're tainted now. Even though you're clear, everything, there's nobody who can hire you." I have a very, very good friend who was head of rates in one of the big banks, and we played pool together. He's a very good friend of mine, and I said, "What do you think?" He goes, "There's no way." So I had to. Unfortunately, leave banking. Actually, as it turns out, fortunately, because we came back to Greece with my wife and started a family. I raised my kids at home. My wife works, and I was lucky enough that I come from a family which is my father was a banker on the retail side, and we're he's not poor, let's put it that way. He has some assets and he has some funds that I trade for him. So I got back into trading the family money. And in parallel, after meeting Steve and then meeting Blake, we started ForexAnalytix. Actually, I was working on ForexAnalytix before the site went up and before we were ready through the trial. So I would go to the courthouse at 9 o'clock. Leave at 4:30, go at home at 5, and work until midnight on ForexAnalytix. And it actually kept me busy, kept me sane. It was actually a really good thing. And so I had to make a change in my career. I went. I continued trading because I love it and it's what I know how to do. But I had to trade for my own money and my family money, and it was a lot less stressful. A lot less money, obviously. I didn't make the amounts that I made when at the bank, but it's part of life. It's a compromise.
Besides
isn't it better?
Sorry?
Isn't it better? I'm telling you.
Oh, it's miles better. And the stress, I don't have any stress at all. And as I said before, I've raised my kids myself, which is, my father keeps telling me, you're the luckiest man in the world. This happens.
You got to be there to watch them grow up. Stel, one theme that comes through to me after listening to your story is how fortunate you are and were to have a good woman for your wife that stood by you through everything, and went to work, and you were Mr. Mom for a while, And that is worth $1 billion. And
Yes.
that's I think a lot of men out here are probably saying, boy, I wish my wife would have done that. I wish my wife would have stood by me like that through a crisis. And I'd say most of the guys I know here at ForexAnalytix are really blessed with great families, and it shows you how important a family is. And we're learning about that again through COVID. And I have to say that if I didn't know you were an author, and it's great to have an author among the team, and I'm going to order the book, but I would prefer an autograph copy.
You will get your autographed copy. Yeah.
All right. That a lot of people that go through things like you went through end up coming out pretty bitter and a chip on their shoulder. And, your upbringing, your parents did a great job, because I never would have known you went through a crisis like this unless you had told me. Don't you agree, Blake?
Well,
100%. These are the challenges in life that actually define you as a human being. And that's why, not to take away from your story, but like, I think about my military experience, I forget all of the bad things. And I remember only the good. And like for my trading over the last, 4+ years with who I've just, finished trading with, I remember all the good times, and yeah, I'm going to forget all the sleepless nights that I've had. You know what I mean? But that's what defines you as a human. And Stelios, you are definitely, I've watched you for the last 5 years, and it's been amazing just to watch. And
yeah, you look younger now than you did in your picture when you were acquitted.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyway, you look better now. Anyway, what a great day, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say one last thing. Really, if you're psychologically solid, and that comes from yourself and also from the people around you, nothing can break you. We even said at the end, with my wife, when the verdict was about to come out, we made preparations. We said, look, if it's a guilty verdict, this is what we're going to do. That's where we're going to go. 1, 2, 3. And it's amazing to have people like that close to you. And also, it's amazing to have people like the ForexAnalytix team. I'm not just saying it like this. You guys just, you're like my second family, who, I interact with every day, and who, make me feel like I'm in a normal world again, and things are absolutely fine, which they are, thank God. And, I don't think I could do it without you guys. And I said before, I was working through the trial. I think if I would go home and just stare at the ceiling and think about things, I would be a lot worse off. So I think that kind of helped me quite a bit.
I was just going to say, let me add, it's not just those of us here at ForexAnalytix. It's the people in our chat room, yes. All the traders in our chat room. Yes. That's like our second family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you imbibe after the verdict?
Did I what?
Imbibe.
What's
have
imbibe?
Have a couple drinks.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that night after.
I don't think you needed
acquitted.
A trial for that.
No, but it was definitely a celebration night.
I described that in the book as well. We actually, right after the verdict, the guy from BBC said, "Look, if the verdict is good, I'm going to waiting outside for a few words." I said, "Of course." So as we exited, I spoke to the camera. It's gone. Actually, if you YouTube, you search BBC Panorama, the Big Bank Fix, you will find it's a half-an-hour show that I'm in it, and others. And basically after that, we went to a pub right behind the courtrooms, and we went there with my legal team. My wife came, friends came, and funnily enough, in the couple of tables further out was a jury, and we talked with them as well, and it was a lot of fun. It was a good few days afterwards, and the relief, as you can imagine, was immense. Absolutely immense.
Say what the jurors told you.
Oh yeah, when I got out of I read this in the book as well. But Steve, I'm not going to give anything else away. Okay. No. Okay. When I got out, I talked to the cameras. Then we kept walking with my two solicitors, And as we were walking, like 30 meters away, I see a few people of the jury who obviously I can recognize now, having spent 12 weeks with them. And I'm like, I said to the guy, Steve, his name was Steve actually, what do I do? These are the jurors. Can I speak to them? He goes, well, you can do whatever the hell you want. And so I go there, and this lady, I get emotional when I say this because it was a great relief. This lady goes, can I shake your hand? I'm like, what? And she goes, yeah, because, we couldn't believe what we were seeing and what we were hearing, that they were accusing you of doing, and it's clear that you had nothing to do with it. And, there was all these other things happening. And, the other thing which was crazy is that my barristers, they asked the prosecution, okay, of course, you're doing this trial now. What about these people who dropped Libor by 100 basis points? This was called lowballing. So this was the main issue. They went after us to cover up the lowballing. That's what happened. So the question was, what about those guys? And the answer was, oh, don't worry, we're prosecuting these guys now. We're going to go after lowballing afterwards. And of course, in 2018,
they never did.
In 2018, they announced, oh, this is the end of the Libor investigation, and we're not going to do anything else. Yeah. Which is it's nuts. It just shows the power of the banks. The banks control everything. Media, politicians,
the power of money,
everything. Unfortunately, but that's how it is.
What a great story, Stel, and I hope you sell 1 million of these. Blake, we all love you, and we're glad that you're sleeping.
Yes.
And just so you guys know, I've read all the comments from everybody that's come in, and most people are just like, Blake, it's a great decision, and glad to have you back. Look, I'm happy to be back, and I'm really, it's been such an experience, and I cannot say enough about my last several years with Gelos and the firm just before that, and the people that I've worked with. They are like by far, and no offense to you guys, but by far the most savviest minds in the markets I've ever met. And I've learned so much from them, which is only a benefit to ForexAnalytix and our community now, what I've learned. And I've always come to this game thinking I'm going to learn something new every day. But with them, it was like I jump leaps and bounds to see what happens in the markets from different players and how they look at things. And it is very eye-opening, and it's been great. And I'm just happy to be able to share that experience with the ForexAnalytix community now. And it's nice to actually be sleeping. And I want to say, Stelios, to have you on the ForexAnalytix team has been, such a pleasure for all of us. And to have you as a friend has been, beyond a pleasure. So, and I'm just so excited about your book. And I think it's, everybody's been, I see all these orders. People are showing screenshots of the pictures they've taken of their orders. So I know we're all excited to read.
Yeah. If you're in the US, Tom Durkin found a link for you guys to go to Broadway Books net ordering online. So just roll up the chat.
You mean we didn't have to pin it like that?
One last thing I want to add. One of our friends is asking what made me write the book. Halfway through the court, the trial, I realized, man, it's happening to me, but it's such a great story. So I started taking notes, and I said, if I feel like it in the future, I might write a book about it. I just said it like that, and I think it was over a year after the trial ended that I thought, yeah, I might do that, and I started writing. And it became such a healing process. I finally got, closure, because it's difficult to let go of this thing. And I was writing, and I must have written.
Cathartic.
Yes, I must have written for 2 months straight. I'm not kidding. My wife wouldn't speak to me. She said, I'm just going to let you write. And when you finish, we can talk. So that's why I did it, most of all. And I wanted people to hear the story, hear the truth, first of all, because the media didn't cover it properly. They covered what the banks told them to cover. And maybe the book will help people deal with whatever situation comes in the best possible way. So.
All right. What a great way to wrap up the week with an author and a author/trader and a trader/life coach, Blake Morrow. And we got to hear from Steve, and everyone keeps Steve in your thoughts and prayers, so we could have him back to interrupt us during the sessions. And I know you guys miss his review of the markets, and he's great, disciplined technician, trader. And I tell you what, going into year 4 with you guys, it's the best project I've ever been part of. So,
well, we're happy to have you here, Dale, with us. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for the interview today.
Thank you.
Okay, good job, guys. Hey, everyone, have a great weekend. Get prepared with looking at the week ahead. It's a great day to subscribe, at least for a trial. And it gives you the weekend to navigate around the site. And you could tell that we wear our hearts on our sleeves because we care about people and we care about what happens to you every day in the markets. And we're doing our best to help you avoid stepping on landmines and trying to point your eye towards opportunities that look compelling to us. So with that being said, and I know that the guys here live it, don't just count your pips, count your blessings. Have a great weekend, everybody. And we'll all see you on Monday. Adios.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Stealth. Thank you, Blake.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Steve. Adios.